Dmai Parak Aleph Mission Aleph. Hakalan Shabbat Dmai. As explained in the Akdama, Dmai is the produce of Ha'amoretz. Since we're not sure that the Amoretz took with Maisa properly, the Chachom or Masakin, that we need to take with Maisa before eating any produce that we get from him. However, we don't need to actually give the Maisa Rishon to Levi. It's enough to declare a tenth of the produce Maisa, then a separate Trumas Maisa. From that, you do need to actually give it to the Kohen. The owner may keep the rest of the Maisa himself. Okay, so nevertheless, it's not a chiv midiraisa, since most amei oretz take with meiser midiraisa. Anyways, since the chiv to take with meiser from Dmai is only midrabanan, there are cases where the rabbanon were makel with the halachas of Dmai. So the Masechta begins with a list of different types of produce that are potter from the Dmai because they're often hefker. And as mentioned in the previous Masechta in Peah, the produce that is hefker is exempt from Meiser. Sakal Shabbat, the following pairs are makel with regard to Dmai. There are many different interpretations as to what exactly these pairs are, and let's go through it. Let's go through the Mishnah. So Hakal Shabbat, these are the following pairs that were makel about Dmai. Shisin are wild figs. Rimin is lotus. It's a tree that produces small yellow berries. It was radin, sorb apples. These are small fruits of a tree known as a service tree. Ubnai shuach, white figs. This is commonly grows in the forest. It has an unusually long growth cycle. It takes 3 years to ripen after it first emerges, which is different than regular figs who ripen very quickly. Ubnai shukma, and fruit of a hybrid fig tree. It's a fig tree that's crossbred with a chestnut tree. V'nevleist hatmara, and wind-blown dates. That means that the dates were blown off the tree by the wind before they were fully ripe. And they're usually hefker because farmers generally do not bother gathering them from the ground. Mahagufnin, late season grapes. These grapes never fully ripen. The owner generally leaves them on the vine after harvesting the other grapes. Hanitzbeh and capers. All of these are low quality plants that are generally assumed to be hefker, either because they grow in the wild or because their owner has no interest in them. Although we cannot be totally certain that these pairs came from hefker, the chachamim were makel with them because the seller might have acquired the produce from hefker, which the case is not obligated in meiser at all. And even if it didn't come from hefker, maybe he took of meiser from it. So since it's a svek sveka, a double suffix about the chiyuv of meiser, the chachamim were makel without taking of meiser. Ubi Yehuda. So what's going on over here? What's Yehuda? What are we talking about? Eretz Yisrael, which is the land that's the west of the Yarden, is divided into two parts. The southern part is Yehuda, and the northern part is the Golil. The list of pairs mentioned above were often hefker and parted from Dmai only in Golil, but considered important and not hefker in Yehuda, and therefore in Yehuda they'll be mechuyev in Dmai. So the Mishnah is going to list a bunch of different pairs for which the opposite is true, that they're hefker in Yehuda, but they're important in Golil. So in Ubi Yehuda, the Chachamim were makel with the following foods, since they're not important and were often hefker. Oig, with an aleph, is sumac. A sumac tree produces clusters of edible red berries, which were not considered important in Yehuda. V'hachaymet sheb Yehuda, and vinegar from Yehuda. Generally, vinegar was produced from the wine that got sour. Since grapes are an important crop, such vinegar would be mechuyev in Dmai. However, in the times of the Beis Hamikdash, when the wine that was used for nesachim on the mizbeach would come from Yehuda, that those grapes never soured and that wine never went bad. It was b'derech nes. So in those times, Yehuda made vinegar from a low-quality drink known as temed, which is mentioned a couple of times in the Mishnayos over here, which was produced by soaking grape seeds, which are not significant and usually hefker on water for a while, and eventually gives it the flavor. This applied only during the Mizman HaMikdash, but after the Churban, this nes stopped, and the people in Yehuda made vinegar in the usual manner from sour wine. So therefore, the vinegar in Yehuda was included in the chiv of Dmai, like the vinegar of any other place. Hakuzbar, coriander. So these are things that were chashav in Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says, Kalashis and Pturim, all wild figs are pater chutz mishal dufra, except for those from dufra. What is dufra? So dufra is a Greek word which is a contraction of du pra, which is two fruits, which refers to a species of fig trees that produce crops twice a year. As a general rule, figs produce a lot of figs very quickly. Kol harim and pturim, all lotus are potter from Meiser, potter from Dmai Chutz Merime Shikmaina, except for Shikmaina, which is the name of a place, and maybe somewhere near Haifa today. Kol B'nai Shikma Pturos. All the fruits of the hybrid fig tree are potter chutz min hamustafos, except for those that split open on the tree. All of these are higher quality fruit, which according to Rabbi Yehuda are usually grown in privately owned orchards. Therefore, unlike the related species, such produce cannot be assumed to have come from the wild. It's something that people grow. Okay, Mishnah Beis. Hadamai ein loy chaimesh. During the first, second, fourth, and fifth years of the Shemitah cycle, Ma'aser Sheni must be separated from the produce. The produce separated as Ma'aser Sheni is then taken to Shalim and eaten there, B'tara. The Torah also allows the owner to be paid at Ma'aser Sheni onto money. B'tzarta hakesef biyadecha. The money must be taken to Shalim, where it's used to buy food that must be eaten over there. The Chachamim were mechayev that Ma'aser Sheni be separated from Dmai as well. Nevertheless, a number of halachas that normally apply to Ma'aser Sheni do not apply to Ma'aser Sheni shel Dmai. Now the Mishnah is going to go through what these halachas are. Hadamai ein loy chaimesh. Dmai does not have to add a fifth when you're being paid to Ma'aser Sheni. The person who normally redeems Ma'aser Sheni has to add a chaimesh, has to add a fifth, but Ma'aser Sheni shel Dmai is not mechuyev in a fifth. Ma'aser Sheni may be redeemed by selling it to another person or by exchanging it for one's own money. If someone uses his own money to be paid to Ma'aser Sheni, he must add an additional payment, which is a fifth of the final amount. This means that if, for example, the produce was worth 4 dinar, he adds a quarter of the original amount and pays a total of 5 dinar. The additional dinar is referred to as a chaimesh since it amounts to a chaimesh of the final payment. Now, if someone was paid to Ma'aser Sheni but did not add a chaimesh, so then it's still a good opinion. Therefore, in terms of Ma'aser Sheni shel Dmai, the Chachamim relied on the fact that the majority of Amei Ha'aretz do take off Ma'aser Sheni and allowed Ma'aser Sheni of Dmai for the owner to be paid it, even initially lechatchila without this additional payment. The ein loy bir, it's not mechuyev in bir. What's bir? So before Pesach of the 4th and 7th years of the Shemitah cycle, the owner must remove all trumas and ma'aser from the previous 3 years. Truma must be given to the kohen, and ma'aser rishon to the Levi, and any ma'aser sheni or the money of ma'aser sheni that remains in his possession that cannot be eaten in Yerushalayim must be destroyed. This is known as bir ma'aser. So our Mishnah is teaching us that the Chachamim were not mechayiv this with Dmai. V'nechel la'oinen, it may be eaten by an oinen, somebody whose close relative died that day. So upon the death of one of a person's 7 close relatives, whether it's a father or a mother, a brother, sister, a son, a daughter, or a spouse, he or she is considered an oinen. An oinen is also to eat Ma'aser Sheni, like the pasuk says, le'achalti be'oini mimenu. The Mishnah is saying that this restriction does not apply to Ma'aser Sheni of Dmai. And unlike regular Ma'aser Sheni, after he enters Yerushalayim, after the Paris enter Yerushalayim, he may take it out. Ma'aser Sheni may not be, you can't be paid the Ma'aser Sheni in Yerushalayim. Nevertheless, according to the Dinei HaTorah, if Ma'aser Sheni was brought into Yerushalayim, it may be taken back out and you could be paid it. However, the Chachamim were geyser, the one's Ma'aser Sheni was brought into Yerushalayim, it may not be removed from the city and must be eaten there. The Mishnah teaches that this Zera of Ma'aser Sheni not being able to leave Yerushalayim does not apply to Dmai. And unlike regular Ma'aser Sheni, we may abandon a small portion of it on the road. Someone who's bringing regular Ma'aser Sheni to Yerushalayim may not allow even a small amount of it to become lost on the way. However, regarding Dmai, this is mutter. The Rambam defines a small amount as anything less than the size of a dried fig. One may give it to an Am Ha'aretz to eat in Yerushalayim, but the one giving it must eat an equal amount in Yerushalayim. We may not give regular Ma'aser Sheni to an Am Ha'aretz since we're concerned that he may eat it while he is Tameh, which is going to be awesome with the Raisa. Chacham, however, were makel by Ma'aser Sheni Shal Dmai, and their matir, they allowed it to be given to an Am Ha'aretz. If a person gives Ma'aser Sheni of Dmai to Am Ha'aretz, he must treat an equal amount of his own money as the money of Ma'aser Sheni. Therefore, he must spend it on food that will be eaten betara in Yerushalayim. The Chachamim or mechayiv this in order to prevent people from regularly using the kula that's matter to give Ma'aser Sheni of Dmai to an Am Ha'aretz, since the Am Ha'aretz may end up misusing the Ma'aser and end up being over on Isurim, so we have to be careful about that, so we're not going to do that. Mechal l'maisai kesef al kesef. When a person redeems Ma'aser Sheni by transferring the kedusha onto money, he may again transfer the kedusha of these coins onto other coins. Now there are limitations exactly how this halacha works. However, he may not transfer the kedusha onto coins of the same type, meaning silver coins onto silver coins. Nor may he transfer the kedusha onto produce outside of Yerushalayim. So Ma'aser Sheni Shel Dmai, you're allowed to be mekel when it comes to these halachas. Mechalim Ma'aser Kesef al Kesef. It's mutter to transfer the kedusha of Ma'aser Sheni of Dmai from silver coins with which Ma'aser Sheni of Dmai was redeemed onto other silver coins. The kedusha of Ma'aser Sheni coins may not be transferred to coins of the same exact type because that's not considered to be the normal manner of chilul. However, the Chacham were mekel with coins that were used to be paida Ma'aser Sheni of Dmai. Therefore, for example, a person wishes to buy something and he has no money with him other than the silver coins of Ma'aser Sheni Shel Dmai, he may remove the kedusha of those coins by transferring their kedusha onto other silver coins that he has someplace else. However, he may not necheshes al necheshes. He's also allowed to transfer copper coins onto other copper coins, kesef al necheshes, or from silver coins onto copper coins. When silver coins are exchanged for copper coins, the silver coins which are accepted by more people, by more merchants, are viewed as money, with which the copper coins, the produce, meaning because that's what you were mechalet on, is bought. Now, when the Torah allows you to be paid the Ma'aser Sheni out to Yerushalayim, it talks about transferring the kedusha of Ma'aser Sheni onto money, not the other way around. Therefore, just as a person is allowed to be paid the kedusha of Ma'aser Sheni with money, so too copper coins of regular Ma'aser Sheni may be exchanged for silver coins, which is real money. Silver coins of Ma'aser Sheni, on the other hand, may not be exchanged for copper coins, except in cases where there's a real tzarech, where the chachamim were mekel. With regard to Dmai, however, the chachamim were mekel even if there's no pressing need, and silver coins of Ma'aser Sheni of Dmai may be exchanged for copper coins in any event. This is in line with the next halach of the Mishnah, which allows redeeming coins of Ma'aser Sheni of Dmai with produce even outside Yerushalayim. Unachayshas al peris, v'yachzer v'yivtes al peris divrei Reb Meir. It's mutter to be mechalal the kedusha of Ma'aser Sheni of Dmai from nechoshes onto or silver coins onto Paris. As explained in the previously, as we just explained, the Chachamim were mekel by Ma'aser Sheni of Dmai and allowed you to be mechalal coins of Ma'aser Sheni of Dmai with produce even outside Yerushalayim. V'yachzav v'yiftas ha-Paris, and you may redeem the produce back onto the money instead of bringing the produce to Yerushalayim to be eaten. Normally, if the kedusha of Ma'aser Sheni money was transferred onto Paris, the Paris may not be redeemed. Rather, it must be taken to Yerushalayim. Reb Meir holds that this rule does not apply to Ma'aser Sheni Shel Dmai, and produce exchanged for money of Ma'aser Sheni may be redeemed. The reason why produce onto which the kedusha of Ma'aser Sheni was neschalal may not be exchanged back for money may be in order to discourage a person from transferring the kedusha back and forth, which can result in his continuously putting off bringing the produce to Yerushalayim. Interesting halacha. So I say, Dr. Meir, the Chachamim say, Yala ha-peretz v'echlu b'Yerushalayim. The produce may not, you can't be paid it onto the coins again. Rather, the produce must be brought up to Yerushalayim and eaten there. The Chachamim hold that there's no difference between Ma'aser Sheni of Dmai and regular Ma'aser Sheni, and the kedusha's Ma'aser that's on the money of even if it's Dmai was transferred onto the produce, and the produce you may not be nufta, can't be paid it. Halakach Mishnah Gimel. Halakach l'zara la behema. Tevel may not be eaten. So besides for that, certain other forms of benefit, like planting, or any benefit that results in the tevel being used up, such as feeding it to animals or lighting an oil lamp with it, is also asur. There's a difference, however, in the severity of these isurim. Someone who eats tevel is mechuyev misa b'dei shamayim, while the isur of hana, there's no einish. However, as far as the Dmai is concerned, the Chachamim were mekel with regard to having various types of hana from the produce that was bought for uses other than eating. This is because these uses are not as severe as explained previously. So the Mishnah lists a number of uses that are pater from the halachos of the Dmai. So a person who buys produce from an amaretz for planting or for feeding animals, or kemach la'oretz, flour for processing animal hides of leather, shemen laner, or oil for lighting a lamp, shemen losach bayis hakelim, or oil for greasing utensils, pater min Dmai is pater from the chiv of Dmai, and this is because the laws of Dmai apply only to food that was bought for the purpose of being eaten by people. In the case of oil, to be smeared on a person's body. These foods are pater from the chiv of Dmai only if the buyer did not originally buy the produce for use of people. However, if he originally planned to use the produce or to smear it on his body, and then he decided to use it for a different purpose, then he's going to be mechuyev in meiser. Mikzivu lahalon. So the Mishnah defines the northern border of the area of Eretz Yisrael with regard to the halachas of Dmai. So Mikzivu lahalon, produce that was purchased from the town of Kiziv and beyond, patam and Dmai, because that area was not kadosh when the Yidden came back from Bavel. The town of Kiziv marked the northern boundary of the area of Eretz Yisrael that was niskadish by the Oile Bavel. Although the area beyond Kiziv had originally been part of Eretz Yisrael from Oile Mitzrayim, which was the original Kedusha Sa'oretz, but that Kedusha expired with the Golus Bavel. For this reason, any produce grown, Miksivu Lahalon, is pater from Trumas Amaishus Minatera. The Chacham, however, were misaken, were geyser that you have to take of Trumas Amaishus from produce of that area. So it's only Midrabanan. Nevertheless, they did not require the Chiyuv of Dmai. Moreover, if someone buys Dmai produce there, he may assume that it's grown there and it was not imported from Eretz Yisrael, since as a general rule, outside of Eretz Yisrael produce is assumed to be pater from Dmai, and inside Eretz Yisrael produce is assumed to be mechuyev in Dmai, unless we have information telling us otherwise, as will be discussed throughout the Masechta. Chalas Ha'oretz. The Mishnah excludes various food from the chiyuv of Dmai, since Ha'oretz are trusted to separate maisus from such foods. Let's say challah. So chalas Ha'oretz, when eating dough for bread or the like, the Torah requires that a portion of it known as challah be separated and given to the kohen. The Mishnah teaches that challah, which a kohen receives from Ha'oretz, is not mechuyev in Dmai. The reason for this kula is that Ha'oretz is makbid on taras. Therefore, although Ha'oretz may normally be lax with regard to meiser, they can be relied upon to take off meiser of this kind of status. The Mishnah is speaking of dough that was needed by someone who's trusted not to allow taras to become tameh. Otherwise, we must assume that the Ha'oretz caused the dough to become tameh, in which case the challah may not be eaten in any event. V'hamid duma, and a mixture of truma and chulin of Ha'oretz, because truma may only be eaten by a kohen. Even if a small amount of truma becomes mixed into chulin, the entire mixture must be treated as truma and may be eaten only by the kehanim, unless the volume of the truma is less than 100th of the chulin, in which the case the truma will become batel. Since the owner may not eat this mixture, he has no choice but to sell it to a kohen who is allowed to eat truma. Even though the chulin into which the truma became mixed into belongs to an Ha'oretz, which is normally is mechuyev in Dmai, the kohen who receives such a taruvas from Ha'oretz does not need to take off meiser, and this is because Ha'oretz is going to be careful about it because he's careful about truma, he's just not careful about meiser. Balakuach v'kesef meiser sheni, and the food that's purchased from an Ha'oretz with money of meiser sheni, as we saw in the previous Mishnah, money used to be paid in meiser sheni must be taken to Shalayim, where you have to spend it on food and be eaten there. So if he was paid the money of meiser sheni and it was used to purchase produce from an Ha'oretz, it's not mechuyev in Dmai. So the Mishnah is talking about a case where the buyer tells the Ha'oretz beforehand that he's buying the produce with meiser sheni money. Since the Ha'oretz realizes that the produce will now become kaddish b'kedushas meiser, he's careful to take off meiser before selling it. It's only because he's interacting with the other person. With Shari Menachas, and the remaining part of a korban mincha that belongs to an Ha'oretz, this part of the mincha that remains after the kaimetz, which is the part of the mincha that's scooped up by the kohen and burnt on the mizbeach, is separated from the mincha. The shirayim is eaten by the kehanim in its kachay kachim, so has to be eaten in the Beis Hamikdash. So the Mishnah teaches that if an Ha'oretz offers a mincha in the Beis Hamikdash, we're not concerned that he didn't take off meiser, meaning he for sure took off meiser. Therefore, the kehanim may eat their portion without taking off meiser. So all these things are pater from meiser. Since all these foods have a specific kedusha to it, the Ha'oretz is going to be careful to take off meiser. Shemen orev, fragrant oil, let's say balsam oil, bought from an Ha'oretz because it smells very good, and you're not using it for your body as perfume or the like. So Beishamai mechayvin, uBeisil pater. Beishamai say that it's mechuyev in meiser. Beisil say it's pater. Beisil say that Beisil is going like the beginning of the Mishnah. Therefore, this oil, which is never intended for eating or smearing on the body, it's only used for its smell, is excluded from the halachas of Dmai. Shammai, however, hold that the Gzeir of Dmai includes even foods that were not bought for eating or smearing on the body. Okay, Mishnah Dalet. The Mishnah is going to discuss other halachas where we are makel in Dmai. Other kulos of Dmai are ma'arvim bo, you can use an erev for it. The Mishnah is referring to different types of erevs. The first type of erev we're talking about is the erev tchumen, that a person is not allowed to walk more than 2,000 amas from wherever he is on Shabbos. So Erev Tchumen allows a person to reach a place that's more than 2,000 amos from his actual residence. This is accomplished by putting food within 2,000 amos from where he's living. This shifts his legal residence to the place where he put the food and allows him to walk 2,000 amos beyond that point. The second type of Erev addresses the Rabbanon, the Isser Rabbanon of carrying between one house in a chutzner to another, to the chutzner itself. Eruvei Chatzeres is matter this by having all the people who live in that area, who live in that chutzner, to contribute bread before Shabbos and placing all the bread into one of the houses. So it creates a single residence for all the residents of the courtyard. So neither type of Erev may be made with forbidden food. Nevertheless, as our Mishnah teaches, Dmai is valid for either Erev, as we'll soon see. And you may use it for Shtufei Mevoyis. So Shtufei Mevoyis is similar to Ruvei Chatzeres. The Chachamim aser carrying in and out of a Mavoy, which is like an alley, a common access area into which several courtyards open, unless the residents make a Shtufei Mevoyis. This is accomplished by collecting food from all the residents and placing it in one of the courtyards. Here too, although only food that's mutter to be eaten can be used for Shtufei Mevoyis, our Mishnah is teaching us that for Shtufei Mevoyis you can use Dmai. Umavarchan love. You make a bracha on Dmai, even though eating it without taking of meiser is aser. So generally speaking, a person may not make a bracha when he's eating food that's aser because it's Hashem, it's insult to Hashem. Nevertheless, if someone's over the Isser of Dmai and he can still make Birkas Hamazon when he's finished. Umezamnin love, and someone who ate Dmai can join the Zimun. When three or more men eat a meal together, they're mechuyev in Birkas Hazimun. This is a bracha that you would do even after you eat Dmai. Although these halachas normally apply only to foods that may be eaten beheter, Dmai is an exception. On a certain level, Dmai is viewed as heter. It's not looked at as iser. This is because aniyim are allowed to eat Dmai, as we'll see in Paragimel, and anyone can become poor by declaring all of his belongings ownerless, as we even saw in Peah. So therefore, Dmai is fit to be eaten by anybody. Mafrishan oisei orim. One may take off Dmai even when he's not wearing clothing, when he's naked, since no bracha is said when you take off Dmai. A person who's not dressed may not make a bracha. For this reason, someone who's not wearing clothing may not perform any mitzvah that requires a bracha, such as Trumas HaMaisos, since he will have to skip the bracha. So the Mishnah is telling us that a person may take off Dmai even when he's not wearing clothing because it doesn't require a bracha. And the reason why no bracha is said when you take off Dmai is because it's only a chumrah midrabanan, since the majority of Amei are take off Meiser anyways. Therefore, the chiyuv over here is lower than the regular derabanan, and no bracha will be said at all. And also, you may take it off Bein HaShmoshes, Friday evening during Bein HaShmoshes, which is the period between sunset and nightfall, which we're not sure yet if it's daytime, or it's not yet Shabbos, or if it's nighttime and Shabbos has already started. So it's asur to do malacha Bein HaShmoshes. The Chachamim asur taking off Tevel or Dmai on Shabbos, because that's Mesak and Mona. The Chachamim did not allow taking off Meiser from Tevel even during Bein HaShmoshes. It's a suffix that it may be Shabbos. Dmai, however, was not as Chomer, and the Chachamim allow it to be taken off Bein HaShmoshes. Okay, and the last halachas are Hikdish Meiser Sheni L'Rishon Ein Bekach Klum. On the last day of Pesach, on the 4th and 7th years of the 7-year Shemitah cycle, somebody who owns produce is mechuyev to make a declaration. He needs to do vidui meiser, saying that over the last 3 years he separated the proper amount of his produce and dealt with them ka'alocha. This is known as vidui meiser. Now it's also to separate trumas and meisers out of order. So one who took meiser off of tevel out of order does not say vidui meiser because he didn't get it right. The correct order is first you take off bikurim, then truma, then meiser rishon, and then meiser sheni. So hikdish meiser sheni l'rishon en bekachlum. But if he designated meiser sheni of Dmai before he designated meiser rishon, there's no problem, and he can still say vidui meiser because the chiyuv of Dmai is much less. Shemen shahagar disach betz ba'isav. There's 2 more cases in the Mishnah. Oil that the weaver smears on his fingers to protect him while he works. So chayiv b'Dmai is mechuyev in Dmai because using this oil to protect his fingers is similar to smearing it on one's body. Now, there's a general halacha that sichas kishtiyah, smearing oil on oneself, is similar to drinking. Accordingly, just as it's also to drink Dmai oil, so too it's forbidden to rub it onto one's skin. So it's chayiv b'Dmai. But if a person who combs wool puts it in the wool to make it easier and smoother to comb, so pater min Dmai. After raw wool is washed, it's combed and beaten with a stick to untangle it and prepare for spinning. This is similar to the ruling of the previous Mishnah that oil used to grease utensils is exempt from Demai ad kan.